Great. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started, even though I know some others are joining. My name is Kristen Burnett. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Deputy Director here at Sehat Initiative at the Public Health Institute. And today we will be covering our request for applications. We'll be offering technical assistance around the application process for the RFA, for the Afghan Refugee School Impact Support to Schools and Ukrainian Refugee School Impact projects. This webinar is really focused on the application process. We'll be covering how to apply. We'll be covering some of the required documents, and we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. If you have not already looked into the RFA document, we encourage you to do so. And there was an informational webinar held last week that covers more general questions about the funding. So we view this as a sort of a part 2 to that webinar. So my colleagues will be putting those in the chat. So please take a look at those if you have not already. And again, we will be really focused on the application process in this webinar. All right, next slide, please. So for this webinar, we will be covering an orientation to the RFA document. We will also orient you to the SurveyMonkey Apply platform, which is how we are accepting applications. We will cover the required application documents and templates, which can be downloaded from SurveyMonkey. And we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. And again, the slides and recording will be emailed to all participants tomorrow. If you are not comfortable with your image being on the recording, since we will be distributing the recording, please keep your cameras off. All right, and next slide, please. So as far as our presenters, there's just a few of us today, but we do have the whole Sehat team on the call who may be assisting in the chat. And I will advance to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So the first thing we want to share with everyone is that the RFA document is on our website at sehatinitiative.org. If you have not already, we really encourage you to read carefully through the RFA document. It has a lot of detail. It's quite long. It's over 20 pages, but it has a lot of detail about what we're looking for to go into your applications and descriptions of what to put into each of your required submission documents. So if you have not already, please review that document carefully, and it will give you a lot of information. So we will be referring back to that document quite a bit throughout the call today. All right, next slide, please. So now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Diana Daniels to talk a little bit more about the SurveyMonkey Apply platform, which is how we are accepting applications. Over to you, Diana.
Hi, thank you. I'm Diana Daniels. I'm the administrative assistant at Sehat Initiative, and I'm just going to show you a few screenshots for SurveyMonkey Apply. I recognize a lot of the names of the registrants that have registered for SurveyMonkey. That's terrific. This is sort of the home page, and you can see here that you hit apply. And we've provided information at all stages on the home page, introduction, but to actually get going, you want to look at that green apply button. That'll take you to a screen that looks like this. What's key is that there's a lot of information and you need to scroll through this document. We're asking in this first page for some basic questions such as contact information for your organization, contact phone number. And at the bottom of this, there's an option for you to check the funding that you're applying for. So if you're applying for RFA S2S funding, you check that box. If you're applying for URSI, you check that box. If you're applying to both programs, you check both. And what that does is in the platform, it triggers the tasks that you need. I just want to draw your attention here to the left where you see this box. And this basically tracks for you at all stages where you are in the process. So here it says begin application, and that's what this page does. So I have included here places where you can look at more information with links, some reminders here to scroll. What's key to trigger that task that you're all looking for, because that task includes the templates, is to hit mark as complete. And once you're satisfied with all the information that you've included, hit mark as complete, and that will then cause your task to show up. So here's where you check, and it'll tell you successfully that you have if you've hit mark as complete, that you have checked 2 programs, or if you've hit successfully mark as complete, it'll show just the 1 program. This is your task. And you can see here on the left in the task box that it shows you the stage that you're now in, which is in this particular instance, the applicant chose URSI. So the test applicant, and it says that you're now working on your project narrative, budget, and statement of objectives. And of course, we also have your work plan template in here as well. What's key is you click on these links and the documents download. So where I'm getting questions already is where are the downloads? I'm clicking on the link. That depends on the browser you're using. So for example, I use Google as my browser. So when I click on the download, it shows up here in the upper left. Did the screen share work successfully on that when I transitioned?
Yes, we can see in the upper right corner of the screen
Perfect.
where your downloads would be.
And I'll just draw attention while we're here that when you are ready with all your documents, this same stage, which you would get returned to in the left, is where you can upload your documents, and it's simply attach file. You can browse for your files, and a neat trick is you can select multiple files at once just by hitting your shift key. So if I have, let's see, view this as list. And say I wanted to upload all of these documents, even though they don't apply, I can do it all at once. Hit open, and you can see that it's uploading all of them. Now, if you want to return to your documents before you hit mark as complete, they're here. You can delete them, reattach them if you've made changes. If you only want to attach one template that you have completed at a time, you can leave the program and come back into the stage and see your attachments here at the bottom. Here. Oh. Slide. There we go. That's a little bit more polished. So that is basically it. And so with the next slide, I'll hand it off to my colleague.
Diana, are you screen sharing the PowerPoint? Because right now I still see the SurveyMonkey apply.
I'm sorry. Yes,
No worries.
Thought I did that successfully. 1 second. How about that?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. And if folks are still having trouble with SurveyMonkey, or if they have more questions, we will have time for Q&A at the end of this presentation. You can also email us at refugeeschoolimpact@phi.org if you have questions about SurveyMonkey Apply. Thanks, Diana. So next we're going to talk about the required application documents. We'll cover each of them in the subsequent slides. Our deadline for submission is May 1st at 5:00 p.m. And all submissions should occur through the SurveyMonkey Apply link, which you can see on the screen and is also in the chat. And if you would like to have an extension anytime up until May 15th, or could be sometime between May 1st and May 15th, please email us to request permission for an extension, and that would also be to refugeeschoolimpact@phi.org. Next slide, please. So the first document that you would download from SurveyMonkey is a template for the project abstract or cover page. This can be submitted as a Word or a PDF document. And what should be included in that cover page is on the screen and is also in the RFA document itself. What the contents are of each of these required attachments begins on, I believe, page 10 of the RFA document. Next slide, please. So the next document that is a required attachment is the project narrative. This is really going to be one of your sort of key documents that you want to spend some time on. It's where you're really describing your program, what your goals are, how you intend to meet those goals, where you're going to share about your organization's expertise in doing these activities, and really talk a lot about how you're going to accomplish the goals of the RC, S2S, or URSI programs. You can also refer to your work plan documents, which we'll cover shortly, in this narrative. So if you want to call out work plan activities by number or by name, you can also refer to them within this document. This is really going to be the place where you give a good picture of who you are, what you do, and what you intend to do with these funds. Next slide, please. And I will pass it over to Sarah next to talk more about the work plan documents.
Thank you, Kristen. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Lackey, and I'm the Advisory Group Associate here at Sehat. I'm going to be talking to you about the work plan. You will need to submit the work plan using the template that we provide. We do have separate templates, like Diana was showing on the SurveyMonkey, for RC, S2S, and URSI. So if you're applying to both RC, S2S, and URSI funds, you'll need to make sure that you submit separate work plans for each. This is a 3-year federal award. However, since year 1 is almost complete, you'll only complete and submit the work plan template that details your planned activities for years 2 and 3 of the project. So your first year of the project is technically the second year of the federal award from the Office of Refugee Resettlement. And the next 2 slides, I'll provide some more information on how to complete the work plan. So Diana, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the first part of the work plan has a table like this one, where you'll record the number of clients you intend to serve for each of the 5 categories. The year 1 column says NA because it's not applicable, as we're not doing funding for that year. Before filling this out, you should also refer to the eligibility tables for RC, S2S, and URSI, depending on which one you're applying to, for more detailed client eligibility information to make sure that your number of eligible clients served is accurate. I'm going to go through a couple of examples on the slide to help you fill out the table. I will be asking for some participation in the chat, so get ready with that. So Diana, if you could click once for me, please. All right, so we're looking at basic needs. Let's say that for year 2, you plan to serve 22 eligible students. So then you're going to put 22 here where it has it on the screen. And then if you could click again, Diana, thank you. And then if you could click one more time. Thank you. So year 2, you serve 22 eligible students. And then let's say in year 3, I tried to include the math up at the top right, you serve the same 22 students from year 2 plus an additional 8 students. So you'll put 30 total students served in year 3. And then your total in the far right will also be 30, because in this column, we are looking for unduplicated students served. So the 30 comes from the 22 students served in year 2, plus the additional 8 that were served that were added on in year 3. So you have 30 total. All right, if you could click once for me, Diana. Thank you. So let's look at basic needs again, looking at the number of family members. So let's say in year 2, you serve 30 family members. And then in year 3, you serve the same 30 and an additional 15. Then you'd put 45. If you could click once for me, Diana. All right, great. And then in the chat, based on what we filled out, right, you serve 30 in year 2, an additional 15 in year 3. So you have 45. What do you think the total would be here? Thank you, Beth. You get bragging rights. It'll be 45. Thank you, Diana. Can you click once? Right, again, because we're looking for the unduplicated count. Thank you. All right, and I'm going to go through capacity building as one last example. Capacity building through participation in communities of practice. You'll see it says number of participants. It's not broken down into students and family members because we expect that your participants will be teachers, staff, volunteers, and maybe a few student or family leaders. That's why we have it like this. So can you click once for me, Diana? Thank you. So let's say you have 10 participants in year 2, and then in year 3, let's say you have the same 10 and you add 3. You could click one more time, Diana. Thank you. All right, in the chat, based on how we have the table filled out, what do you think the total would be? All right, thank you, Michelle. Yes, it would be 13. Again, because it's unduplicated. You have 10 from year 2, and year 3, you have the same 10 that carry over and an additional 3. So if you could click once, Diana, just to fill out the table. Great, then you have 13. And I also wanted to let you know that for communities of practice, we here at Sehat have created our communities of practice advisory group, and we strongly encourage you all to participate in that advisory group. We have monthly virtual meetings, and we also are planning an annual conference in Sacramento in the fall. It'll be for 1 day. So we encourage you including that in your budget. I will be pasting that information in the chat shortly. All right, if you could move to the next slide. Thank you. So here we have the planned activities table, and this is where you'll describe all of the work that you're going to do. You could, like Kristen mentioned, you can refer to this table in your project narrative. And please make sure that if you're, like, for example, in the last slide, we included numbers for basic needs. So if you do that, you need to make sure that you also include activities for basic needs in this table. So if you have, we do provide 3 different rows for each activity. If you have more activities than that, please feel free to add rows. If you have fewer, you can delete them based on what you're planning to do. So once you describe your activity, you'll need to record the timeline and frequency of each activity. You also need to record who will be served. This is where you'll indicate if it'll be eligible students, family members, and/or staff that you're serving. You also need to record how many individuals you expect will receive the service, as well as any performance measures that you'll use to evaluate how successful the activity will be. That could include the number of sessions, number of services provided, etc. And in the last column, you'll need to indicate who's responsible for carrying through that activity. This could be internal staff from your organization, or if you're working in partnerships and you have subcontracts or plan to issue subcontracts, this is where you'll indicate if a subcontracting organization is responsible for that activity. All right, and now I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Susan, who will discuss the budget.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm Susan Gluhanish. I'm the program administrator with Sehat Initiative, and I work with contracts and invoices. This slide provides some basic guidance on the Excel template in the RFA. Your application will be based on what's considered years 2 and 3, as Sarah has mentioned, along with the project dates of those periods. What you want to include in your budget is the FTE for each project personnel, itemized costs associated with the project, and indirect costs, as well as an itemized budget for each lower tier subawardee, subcontractor. The funds for this subaward cannot be used for these items: food for distribution, purchase of vehicles, gift cards for a service that delivers, such as DoorDash or Instacart, building construction, out-of-state travel, political lobbying, and profit. Next slide, please. The budget narrative. Please go into detail on how budgets were determined, the role of each staff on the project and FTE, and how non-personnel costs were determined. Now, as Sarah had mentioned, if you're applying for both URSI and ARSI, you'll need to fill out 2 budget templates for each of the programs, as well as 2 budget narratives. How you're going to calculate your indirect costs, if you have a negotiated indirect cost rate agreement, this must be included in with your application documents. or you can use the 10% de minimis rate. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kristen.
Okay, thanks, Susan. And thanks, Sarah. And thanks, Diana. So we now are going to open it up to questions. And we wanted to leave plenty of time for question and answer. So if anyone would like to come off of mute and ask a question, we'll also take questions in the chat, and please ask away. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand or type it in the chat. So I see one in the chat from Laura. Thank you. It says, once we click mark as complete on the SurveyMonkey apply, how can we edit this section later? Diana, I'm going to field that one to you.
Once you hit mark as complete, while it's not the same thing as submitting, it is a really concrete action. So it's best practice to have everything certain before you hit mark as complete. If in the first form, you hit mark as complete and you realize you need to make a change, reach out to me directly through refugeeschoolimpact.org. You can address it to Diana, and I will go into the platform and I will reset the form for you. The downside to that is that you'll have to refill all of your contact information. My recommendation is, as a preemptory step, is to keep the information you fill in the longer box about who you're going to serve, which if in your instance it's text heavy, have that maybe in a Word document so you can cut and paste it back in. Otherwise, it only takes seconds to go back through the form again. So short answer, reach out to me and I'll reset things for you.
Thanks so much, Diana. I'm seeing another question in the chat. What are the formatting requirements for the narratives, such as font size, margins, etc.? And that's a great question. And I realize we didn't provide guidance around that. So I would say just use what is the standard, which is usually 1-inch margins, 11 or 12 point font, and something that's one of the standard fonts like Times New Roman, Calibri, Aptos, one of those standard fonts, Arial. So something that's fairly standard. Okay, I see a question from Janelle. In the last info meeting, it was said that services could just be provided to parents. Since the budget guidance is based on $2,000 per student, how do we determine budget if we only provide education services to the parents based on allowable services? Thanks, that's a really great question, Janelle. We have gotten quite a lot of questions about the $2,000 per student guidance, and we have tried to cover that extensively in our FAQs. If someone could post the link to the FAQs. So we do encourage you to serve family members and parents. The family members and parents do need to be related to a student who is eligible, because the student eligibility is what determines whether the parents can receive services or not. So for every parent that you serve, there should be a student that you're documenting eligibility for. So that should be recorded. And again, the $2,000 per student is not like we're reimbursing $2,000 per student. It's not literal. It's just a guidepost to help people, when they're designing their budgets, have sort of something to guide them around what they should be aiming for. So if you have, what the services that you provide are going to be, could work out to being more than that per student or less than that per student, depending on the service, depending on how frequently it's offered. But that's really just more like about guidance. So keep in mind how many students are related to the family members you intend to serve, and then that's how you would use that guidance. And please take a look at our FAQs for more around the $2,000 per student guidance.
Okay, I can address the next question from Catherine. I saw that no gift cards for delivery services can be included. That is correct. But may we budget gift cards for participation in a workshop or support group session? Yes. And I assume expenditure on snacks and food for community events is all right. Yes. Yes, but you would include those as program supplies or more likely event supplies in your budget.
Thank you, Susan.
And I think, okay, then I think another question. There are 3 sheets in the budget, like tier 1, 2, and 3. We need clarification. Well, the first, Diana, would you be able to take me to the budget template in the PowerPoint at the end?
Sure, 1 second.
Oh, sure. So what we need is, this would be, you would fill out for your organization. And then if you're partnering or you have collaborators, they would be considered tier 1, 2, or 3. They would be your lower tier, and you would want to give an itemized budget as well for them so that we can understand that what the costs are and that if they're allowable. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, I understand. Thank you so much.
And please feel free to reach out to Refugee School Impact at phi.org if you have any other questions around this or you need some more guidance.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, if you allow me, my question is to Sarah. Thank you for the explanation of the template. For work plan, which we have 5 activities, they are the main and they have subcategories. For each column, there are a number of students that we can choose, and there's no total in the bottom. If we are serving different categories of students, or in some cases, same service of different column can be matching to same individual, will they be counted as separate student? Or, for example, for the basic needs support, we have chosen certain students, while we come to mentorship, and again, we face they're the same student. Will they be counted as 2 separate students because they are falling into categories of service, or they are 1 student?
And Kristen, I'm going to ask you to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if, again, you have 1 student who's receiving basic needs support, you would include them in that. And then if you have like basic needs support activities, and then if you have separate activities like youth engagement and development, you would also, like that same student is also receiving those services, you would count them in that category. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yes, thank you. And Diana, would you mind going back to slide 13 so we can have a talk through what we're talking about? Thank you. Sorry, the one prior to this. So yes, we completely understand that there will be a lot of duplication. So you may have a student or a family member receiving basic needs support who also is receiving youth engagement and development activities or school enrollment support. So as long as the students within each row are not being duplicated, that's what matters. I understand there is a place where we ask for a total down at the bottom below this table, which would be which would include duplications, and we understand that, but within the table you don't want to duplicate within the category from year to year. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I got my answer. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I'm going to go back up a little bit because I want to get back to a couple of the questions in the chat. I'm seeing something about not having access to a couple of the fonts in the templates. And I put in the chat that you can use any standard 11 or 12 point font in your templates, what I want to double check is that if and this question is back to Beth, are you able to actually see what's in the templates? Are you actually able to view it, or are you having difficulty even downloading it at all? Beth, if you are
Sorry,
able
yeah,
to.
sorry. I am unmuting. Yeah. Oh, I can see it. I just can't work in Aptos and Segway. I think they were. So I'll just swip them out for like times and we'll be
Okay,
good.
yeah, you can swap them out. Thank you. Okay, I'm reading down to the next question. If there are more than one child per the same family that are eligible, would that be considered one entry to be counted, or are all eligible children counted as a separate entity? All eligible children can be separate. So if you have a family that have 3 children in that school that are eligible, that would count as 3 different students served if you're aiming to serve them for that activity. And the next question is, do we need to collect letters of support from other entities, or is it not required? It is not required. If you do have letters of support you'd like to include, you can include that in your other submissions. There's a place where you can upload other documents, but it is not required. And yes, there's no preference given to those who submit by May 1st versus May 15th. We will start reviewing both of them around the same time. And so no, there will not be, no one will be penalized for having an extension. Great. Any other questions, or did I miss any in the chat? Any other, let's see here. The extension you need to request the extension by emailing Refugee School Impact at phi.org. So please, if you would like an extension, please email us. And we are tracking who has asked for an extension, but so far we have granted that to everyone who has asked. Right. And any other questions? I saw a question in the chat, and I'm wondering, Diana, if we can go back and cover this again, which is how to access the templates to all the required documents in SurveyMonkey. If you wouldn't mind going back to that slide and showing folks how to do that, I would appreciate it.
One moment.
We are going to cover how to get the templates right now. So the project narrative, the budget templates, Diana will show you in just a minute how to grab those. They are all, you must go into the SurveyMonkey apply link in order to access the templates and download them to your computer, and then you will re-upload them back into SurveyMonkey apply to submit them. Okay, back to you, Diana.
Okay, so this is the screenshot, which is just at the bottom of the beginning of your application where you select your funding. So once you check the one you're applying for, in this case, I have a test subject who clicked both of them, and then you hit that green mark is complete, then that will advance you to your next task. And that, in this case, this test applicant only selected URSI. So here is your URSI project narrative links. So these are all your templates for this particular program. You just click on the link and then that triggers the download. And if you'll be patient with me, I'll switch back to showing it live, if that's all right with everyone. Oops. Oh, I'm still on the PowerPoint. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so in this case, we have a test applicant, and we can see over here on the left that we're in this, this is our task. And we have a check mark that shows that we went through the first page. So you just click the link, and then the download appears up at the top. And then my trick is I like to go to the downloads, take it, and drag it to my desktop. You can go to your download history according to your browser, and from there you can open the documents and do save as to your desktop, or you can drag and drop as well. You just do that for each of them. And then where I'm here, for example, the budget template, I'm clicking it. Now I've opened the budget template just by double clicking on it. But to actually save it, I would have to do File, Save As. Did that help? Would you like me to run through that again?
Thanks, Diana. I'm gonna go back up in the, go ahead.
And I'm always here to help. If you reach out through the Refugee School Impact at phi.org email inbox, I'm willing to, take a moment to work with you one-on-one. I'm having success just sending screenshots. So do not hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Diana. I'm going to go back up in the chat a little bit to saw a couple other questions. This is a question from Laura. Is there a maximum amount to request, for example, in a collaborative? So in the RFA document, which Diana, are you able to maybe share screen of the actual RFA document? The RFA document on page, starting on page 3, shares some estimated funding amounts per region. This is not necessarily going to be our hard and fast rule, but we have prioritized a certain amount of funding for each region based on data that we have on the number of Afghan and Ukrainian newcomers. So you can scroll down a little bit, please, Diana. So you can see right here the funding amounts per region. So, I would say loosely, these would be a cap, but again, we want to, it's also going to be very determined by the number of students you're serving. And that's why we provided the guidance around that, working out to roughly 2,000 per student with associated family members as guidance when you're designing your budgets. And then we have another question about who's driving eligibility, family date of entry, or student need. So eligibility is very, very, very important for this project. And thank you, Allison, for putting the eligibility tables into the chat. There is very specific eligibility in terms of date of entry for both RC S2S and URSI, and it is based off of the student. Thank you, Kellen, for putting the RFA document in the chat. We really encourage you guys to read it closely because it does provide a lot of guidance. Any follow-up questions to that or other questions? Okay, I'm seeing some more. Orange County would be in the Los Angeles area.
Kristen, there was another question in the chat that says, can you explain what is meant by identification of community partners in this section? Our team had different interpretations of what this could mean.
Trying to find this question. Okay, yeah, identification of community partners. Can we scroll maybe down a couple pages? Okay, here we go. Thank you, Diana. I think it's maybe if you scroll up, it is, yeah, if it's at your basic needs support, identification of community partners. So this language is actually coming from CDSS and ORR, so it's not our language. And I think in this case, identification of community partners is those who are either providing basic needs or providing navigation services to basic needs. So it could be one of those two things. And I think with what's not said here is that identification of community partners is something that would mean you're identifying the community partners and you're also working to connect families with those community partners in some sort of way. Thank you. Are there more questions or any that I've missed? Riverside and the Inland Empire would likely be, if you can scroll up, would be in the rest of California area. However, I do want to leave it open that this is, these are estimates. We look forward to proposals and we look forward to your proposals, sharing with us what data you have that demonstrates your need. We know that the data that we get on newcomer arrivals to certain areas is not perfect. We may have a lot of refugees arriving into a certain location that may have moved since then because there is secondary migration. So, if you feel that you have justification to serve a certain amount of newcomers, you can provide that justification in your application. And we will look into all proposals that have a strong justification. And again, all of this is provided merely as guidance, not as a rule. Will all of the links included in the chat be accessible later in the recorded file? Yes, and they're all also available on our website. So anything that we've talked about today would be available either on our website or in the SurveyMonkey apply application link, which is also linked from our website. Thank you, Sarah, for dropping that in the chat. Right. Are there other questions or?
Laura had
ones I
a
have missed?
question. Maximum funding amount, would that be per year? The total amount available is listed out on the RFA for ARSI and URSI. That is through June 30th, 2026. Does that answer your question, Laura?
Yes, thank you.
Do we have any other questions or anything I've missed in the chat? Any questions coming in? All right, I'll give it a few more minutes. Just want to emphasize again that you can reach out to us at Refugee School Impact at phi.org with questions, but we do encourage you to closely read the RFA document that we have up on the screen. It has a lot of helpful guidance as well as our website FAQs if you have questions. We will be adding questions to the FAQs, so check back frequently to see what's been added. Someone else might have asked a similar question to you and the answer might be up there. So please take advantage of all of those links. I'm seeing a question. Will priority be given to applications that include more orgs or to applications that provide more needed services, even if it was from one organization? There won't be priority. I think we expect to have a mixture of those who are collaborating as well as those who are providing the services on their own. So I think there's not a priority for either. We just want to see those who are doing good work and have good proposals that really outline their expertise and are, providing the services at an appropriate budget amount for the type of work they're going to do. And we look forward to reviewing them. And I said another question, if there are more rows for staff, can we add more? Yes, you feel free to add rows as you need them. That includes in the budget template or the work plan template if you have more staff or more activities that you want to add. Okay, I'm seeing another question. Can you show how to get the budget template from the link? I'm sorry, I tried it but couldn't find it. So we can go back to that again, Diana. Thank you.
Okay. What I would be curious to know what browser you're using, because that's kind of key to doing it. So
is they promote, like they do a bunch of like media, all this stuff, and on the day of they count how much money they've done fundraise for nonprofits.
Marina, can you please mute? Thank you.
Hi. Okay, so I just clicked the budget narrative. Now I'm clicking the budget template. I use Google as my browser. So up in the upper right, there's a down arrow, and that shows me where all my downloads are. Alternatively, I can go here to where it's downloads, and it shows me my history. And here I have everything as well. And then I just click on it, and I can save it to my desktop. So if you're using Fox Pro, if you use Edge,
so
it's basically the same. Just where they put it, what the little icon looks at just varies a little bit according to the browser, but it's the same function across browsers.
So yes, you do need to get past like sort of the first step of the application to get to the place where you would download the templates.
And to review that real quick is here on the begin application. This is the beginning of the application. You go through this text, you answer your questions, providing in who's your organization, who will be your lead contact. And then down at the bottom, when you're satisfied with all the information you put in, I've already triggered it, but there will be a green box that says mark is complete. And when you hit mark is complete, that's what brings you to the task that then provides the links to all the templates.
Thanks so much. And I also wanted to share, I'll share in the chat, that this wasn't asked live, but it did come in through our survey. someone asked about grant writing resources for those who might not have a paid grant writer on staff. So I'm dropping those links in the chat for some grant writing resources that you can use if that's something you're interested in. Great. Do we have any other questions? Or comments or concerns about anything that we've covered? Just give it another minute.
Kristen, is it okay if I jump in one last time?
Sure.
So while I have this screen up, you guys can see my screen again, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So when you're finished, you have all your templates, you've uploaded them, and you're ready to send this off to us. I draw your attention again to this left box and you hit submit. And that's what gets it officially into the works for us to review.
Thanks, Diana. We do want to encourage everyone to go ahead and go in and download those templates, you know, as soon as possible, so you can start working on them and give yourselves plenty of time to work on your submissions, so that you don't run into any challenges really close to the deadline. Give yourself ample time, and we will take questions in our Refugee School Impact inbox. We do, however, encourage you to read the RFA and our FAQs first to make sure you can't get your question answered that way. We are getting quite a lot of inquiries into our inbox, and it can take up to 2 business days for us to respond just because of the level of questions that we've been getting. So please take advantage of the resources that we've provided, and we're always here. If you are really struggling with the SurveyMonkey Apply app, please reach out, or if you have any other questions. And we will record this as well and share it with you. And hopefully you all were either able to attend the informational webinar or see the video. Those are also, the recording is also available on our website if you'd like to review that. Sorry, one more question. Replete how to edit the application if it's in complete status. I'm going to field that to you, Diana.
Okay, so make sure I'm understanding, is it which stage? Is it the apply form, or is it with you're doing your tasks and you need to upload them?
Yeah, I can clarify. This is Sergey Terenkov. I'm sorry. So it's in order for me to upload the templates, I click complete for the first page of the application. Now, how do I go back and edit it? So that was my question.
You just go back to attach file to this exact same place.
Okay.
And you just attach another file. And you can
Right, but if I do want to change the narrative on the first page, I mean, how do I do that?
Oh, and once you've hit mark as complete on that, it's pretty much set. You would reach out to me via the Refugee School Impact email, and I'll reset that page.
Okay.
So my warning, though, is that any information that's entered, let's see, I went past it. I'm so sorry. Oh, no, I did not. Or we ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. And I apologize that I am not speaking and thinking. Here we go. It didn't show up to me because this box here actually allows for 3,000 characters, but just because I typed in test, it became small. But if anything you save here, this is all going to be wiped when I hit reset. So I would just take the step of copying and pasting it into a Word document. So if you had extensive information, you can just cut and paste it back into the form once it's been reset.
I had a quick question on the deadline. On the website, it says that it's due May 1st, but then below it, there's something about extensions to May 15th. Could you clarify what that is?
Yeah, so we are accepting, we are granting extensions, and if you email us at refugeeschoolimpact@phi.org. So if you'd like to request an extension, please email us. For all others, the deadline would be May 1st. So we are tracking who's asked for an extension and to when, so just please reach out so we can so that we can know that we're to expect you a little bit later if you want an extension.
I have another question that is related to the timelines and frequency of activity, and also the number of individuals that we will be serving. For example, if we choose 200 plus individual and we are choosing that we are serving these people on daily basis, that they're coming normally, one comes today, another may come tomorrow, it will continue. And should we choose 200 times the number of the frequency of activity for 200 times? For example, we are doing referral services for the connection of the basic needs for refugees. 200 families we have chosen, for example. And now for each family, we'll be serving once or twice as per their need. If we put this 200 number of activities also 200, will that work? Or should we just put, as it's monthly, we put it weekly or daily basis?
Thanks, that's a great question. And Diana, if you wouldn't mind going back to the work plan table slides, so we can talk through in the PowerPoint what we're talking about. So there's two parts of the work plan. The first is how many individuals served. And for that, you definitely want to just put how many individuals you served. You don't want to multiply it by, since the slide before this. So the first part of the work plan is the individuals to be served. So this is really going to be just the number of students or family members or other participants for capacity building that would likely be staff or volunteers. We really want this to be just the non-duplicated number of students, family members, or other participants that will be given services. In the next table, next slide, please. So for this, again, it's going to be just for the how many individuals will receive this service. It's just going to be the person, how many individuals. But you can, in the first column, timeline and frequency of activity, indicate how often you plan to do that, but you don't need to multiply the number of people times the number of times the service is given in the third column.
So for example, we are doing referral services for refugees. And this our work, it's our daily basis. We are doing it on daily basis. But we have chosen 200 individuals to be served in 1 year. And number of services matter how many times we do. It is my question. If we are choosing, we are giving a referral one time for this family, is this service counted as one time? And this because it's our daily basis. Or sometimes they may come for many times. They ask for referral here and there.
Yes.
So
that is something that is important to collect, but it doesn't need to go into this table because this is a work plan table. So this is just what, the number of individuals you serve. This is just really describing what kind of services you're going to provide. It's not doing an actual count at this stage. So in this column, the third column from the description, how many individuals will receive the service is how many you predict you'll serve. So if you predict you're going to serve 200 students, that number in that column would be 200. In that first column from the description, timeline and frequency, you could say daily, multiple times per week. You could say 3 times per week. You could just provide more description on how often you are going to provide that service. We will be providing you with our semi-annual reporting template so that any person who receives an award or a sub-award from us is going to be tracking those kinds of things about how many actual services are being provided. So if there's a certain student that's receiving multiple services, it would be tracked in that way. That's more for reporting, and we don't need that information now at the time of the application.
Kristen, if I may chime in, Mr. Zabula, you can count an individual only once. It doesn't matter you provide them service one time or 10 times or 15 times throughout the life of the project. So you can count that person only once. And the purpose of the frequency is that we want to know how many times you're engaged with that individual or that sibling of a student or the parents that is affiliated with the budget. If your frequency is only once, but you have a staff member who is budgeted for the full year, we want to know why the frequency is once, but the budget is for a year or two, or for example, the FT. So everything is connected to each other. If the frequency is higher, you can justify the budget, the duration, but for the purpose of counting, an individual is counted only once, and the frequency is for the purpose of understanding the scope of your work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a confusion that because once we paid say how many individuals received the service, we put 200, but when it comes on daily basis, we are not gonna do the service for 200 on the daily basis. That was the main confusion that I had. Thank you so much.
Sure, we understand that. So when, the work plans are written or are broken down by year, so the number of individuals is how many you expect to receive that service within that year at the frequency that you're providing.
If your question is still not answered, you can write the Refugee School Impact, and I'll be happy to provide more details.
Oh, thank you so much. No, I got my answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all the great questions. I know we're a little bit over time and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Do we have any last burning questions before we adjourn? Thank you, team, for posting the links in the chat. There's a lot of great resources in there. And everything can be found on our website at sehatinitiative.org. Thank you, Laura. I'm glad it was helpful. Thanks, everyone. We look forward to reviewing your proposals. Thank you so much for attending and for all your great questions. Have a great rest of your day.